Upside to death and bereavement, you say? Yeah, there are some, and I bring in this video my 7 years experience as a celebrant and my nearly 3 years experience as a part-time funeral director, and the recent bereavements that I have been living with for the past few weeks now, to bring some answers to that. We had a funeral service here at All Saints for my granddad. 99 years old, bless him. He got into his 100th year. He would have loved to have seen his 100th birthday, but that wasn't to be. And this morning I was able to be funeral director again, to take him for his direct cremation, as was his wishes, at the crematorium. And then his ashes will be interred here. So I've come here today to place the flowers that my mum put together, created, I don't know what you call that, floristed, is that a word? On my granny and my great-granny's grave. And then my granddad's ashes will be interred here at some point, maybe when my Auntie Carol gets back from Australia. So this is a bit of a off-the-cuff video. Granddad died only a week ago. Thankfully, gratefully, because I am a funeral director, I was able to quick sticks arrange his funeral, because he wanted a church service and then an unattended cremation. And so it was slightly attended, because I had the privilege of being able to be the funeral director for that. And oh, it was so cute. We had the Dad's Army theme tune as we got him out of the hearse, and then we had that song, "Grandad, we love you." Oh my God, I was in tears. Anyway, the church service yesterday was beautiful. Of course, at 99, that's a sort of an age where you think, well, you're not going to last forever. You know, health's deteriorating, can't do the things that you want to do, so you find some comfort in the fact that, you know, they're not going to last forever, and you try and make it more a celebration of life. But of course it is incredibly sad, and I think that some people's grief, because of the age of a person, is kind of dismissed. Oh, well, you know, he was 99. Oh, you know, she was 88. You know, it had very good innings, blah, blah, blah. I think when you're feeling that depth of grief, because you've lost someone that's really significant to you and you love that person dearly, that's not really helpful to dismiss those griefs. But again, it's very tricky. People struggle to know what to say, and they want to say something of comfort. And anyway, because of the tender emotional state that you can be in when you've lost a loved one, you don't always react in a great way to the things that somebody is trying to say out of kindness, and they don't know what to say, and it's all this awkward. We have this little awkward dance, don't we, so many of us, around when somebody dies, or even when just somebody's ill, and nobody goes to visit them. I did a funeral recently, and this guy was just amazing. He was such a huge member of his community. He did the local carnival, he did Rotary, he did all sorts, and the service was well attended. But for the years that he was ill and housebound, none of these people that attended his service went to see him. I think there was like one or two, and that really put his partner's nose out of joint, as she was there for 5 years caring for him. And of course they all turn up on the day going, oh, you know, I loved him, oh, he was so great. And she's thinking, well, where the bloody hell were you when he was in bed and none of you came to see him? But people don't. It's difficult because they don't know what to say. They don't know whether they should. Well, I can tell you now, just knock on, just ring up, just say, I'd love to come round. And when it's that situation where either somebody's died or somebody's they're ill in bed, they're housebound, and you don't know whether you're intruding or whatever, then just ask, you know, can I come round? Can I come and visit? Or if they've died and you don't know what to say, then just say, literally acknowledge that. I really don't know what to say. I can't imagine how you're feeling right now, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking of you, or, you know, I'm thinking of them, or, yeah, whatever the case may be. That even to do that is, it can be a great help to that person, to know that somebody is acknowledging it and somebody cares. So, upsides. What are the upsides? It's been really, I've had 2 significant deaths. So my granddad was last week, and 4 weeks before that was my lead tutor. And I hope that lawnmower doesn't sound really loud. Of course, we're in a graveyard and he has to be mowing today. They were here yesterday doing it. He obviously didn't finish his job. Right on cue, he turns it off. So cool. So anyway, the upsides. When this video in no way is meant to be, well, hopefully at some point to some people it could be a tonic, but when you're in the very rawest state of grief, this is probably not going to be a tonic at all, because you're not ready to hear it. You're not in a place. I think some people, they want to feel the rawness of that emotion. They don't want to, but they do, because that rawness is their love for them, and they're just literally, their brain is in a place, their mind is in a place where, you know, up is down and down is up, and everything is just all over the shop, and then the memories does not work very well. And some people just don't want to have to acknowledge that they have to deal with organising a funeral and saying goodbye. This is why some people are choosing unattended direct cremations. Also because in that state of grief they can have a feeling of, oh, well, I don't want anyone else just standing up there and saying stuff about them, because they didn't know them as well as I did. It becomes very intensely significant, your relationship that you had with that person, and you don't want to share it with anyone else, and you're not prepared, you're not in a state of being able to socialise with others and all that sort of thing. But I do, and I have seen, and I do experience that the preparing of a funeral service, especially when family can get together, and I know that's not always easy, and if family emotions are going to erupt at any time, it is definitely going to be around bereavement and a time of grieving, because anyone with big old egos, they all start ramping up, and everybody wants to have a say, and somebody wants to be more important than somebody else, and blah, blah, blah. This is the time to just try and practice dropping that ego and being bigger-hearted, and then you're not living with another regret, because no doubt these behaviours quite often go on because there has been history, and then they're living in regret actually of things that they didn't do or things that they did do, and it's too late because now that person's gone. And so then to not play a part in all just being lovely and getting on with each other, even if it's just for that time, just trying to drop the old crap and come together, to each of you take a little part and be kind with yourselves and kind with each other. You know, quite often families, they don't have the skills necessarily, but there's loads of YouTube videos to learn how to do flower arrangements. Get together and try, and I've got a family at the minute that I'm looking after, and the mum was the church florist. And so bless the husband, he is now going into church. He's got a few weeks until the funeral, and he's now going into church, and the girls are teaching him, the old girls are teaching him how to do flower arranging, and him and his kids are going to get together and they're going to make the floral tribute that goes on the coffin. That is so cool. Little kids, you know, sometimes the little grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, usually it's quite often pictures of dinosaurs that go on top of the coffin or go in with granddad or whatever. No relevance to the granddad whatsoever, but it's all a part of, you know, somebody might write a poem, and it's all a part of honouring that person that you're saying goodbye to and coming together, and it's very much, I think, a part of processing that grief. It's a beautiful thing to come together in. So that is one upside. If you can, as a family, come together. The other thing I would say, that when it's difficult, because there are really difficult family dynamics, and like I say, somebody dies in the family, and if there are old grumblings and rumblings, they pretty soon surface. And also, especially if there's money and things going on with the will and houses and stuff, there's a sort of a larger estate or any kind of estate, and jewellery and things, sadly, that's when people can get a little bit grabby and a bit, well, not just bit, quite a lot. And that's a shame, isn't it? Maybe try and leave that until after the funeral. But one thing I would say, whatever the history, and whether there have been upsets and grievances along the way, which generally in families there are, or not, death, having somebody close to you die, I say in funeral services that I do, it's a great leveller. And what I mean by that is, when things are flipping up and down to an extreme of heights of emotion and arguments and discord and discontent in a family, yes, it can really set that to a pinnacle. You know, when you see those like the little pin things that do the when there's like a earthquake and it's measuring the Richter scale and it's like this, and you want to try and get it to this. So death just cuts through that. So people can be doing this, but underlying that, there's been a death. And it can really bring those things to the fore. But with that, I see, comes a great opportunity to really look at that, to really examine those things within yourself. You can't be changing anybody else. Everybody has to do it for themselves. But if you're all a family of different generations and different members, you all have the opportunity to really look at what's gone on or what's going on and step back from that. Again, in the immediate, it's not something, because of the rawness of the grief and the funeral to plan and all that, quite often that's like a time of limbo. But in the time after that, I don't think that the grief is just, I think of grief, so we put this name on it, the word grief, and I think this is Mother Nature's way of smoothing you through the process of getting used to that loved one no longer being there. And so this thing of levelling, it raises things up and puts you somehow in a position where you can really see things for what they are. There's a great sense of, certainly for me, what I've experienced in the last few weeks. So in my grief state, when my tutor died a few weeks ago, it's the most profound experience I've had of a person dying, and really was. And that was the first whammy of grief, that I was really emotional for several days. And then just profoundly, it's almost like being struck dumb. You're just a bit like, oh, and you're a bit out of this world. You're not quite compos mentis in your thinking or your presence in daily life and in the moment. And then my granddad dies a few weeks after that. And then I was really like, you know, and there was a few days when Nicola died and when my granddad died, and you're just like, I'm not doing that today. I can't be bothered with that today. Your oomph gone. But within that, it seems to be coupled with that, with your oomph going, your spark for life going, your brain literally being switched on to be able to have the capacity. And you start saying, oh, housework, that's not happening today. Oh, I haven't got any shopping in. Well, we're just having beans on toast then, and if anybody else wants anything more, then they're going to have to go to the shop and go and get it. And then that follows on to thinking about really what is important in life. I mean, obviously, eating and sleeping and looking after yourself is important in life, but through this process of just casting things off and going, oh, I'm not doing that today, that's not happening there, I'm not up for that. And this process of examining what's going on around you, if you have got family upsets. I'm quite lucky, our family's really lovely, and when Nicola died, it was just like the most massivest outpouring of love worldwide on a WhatsApp group of well over 400 people, but you could say it was into the thousands because they've all got partners and families and all the rest of it. It was huge. This thing of realising really what is important, what matters to you in life. How do you want to behave in life? Who do you want to see and spend time with? That's an upside. It's an awakening. It's an opportunity to come and understand something more about how you live your life. Some people say, oh, you realise your own mortality. Some older people, they've realised that. I mean, I have had that to a certain extent. There's a fair few people that you're like, oh, I turned 50 this year and I suddenly realised, I realised that I'm 60 something, or I'm 70 something, and how many more years, and she was only 50, whatever, and making them realise that you only get so much time and making the most of it and getting to see people and making the effort to go and do things. That sort of thing is really key. And that does, again, that's another great opportunity, isn't it? That you've really, you have those realisations, and it makes you live more richly and more actively, and being more engaged with life and with your loved ones and with others and with doing things in the world and for the world. That's really, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Now, the aspect of somebody you're losing somebody that you love. I was really upset with both of them, but specifically with Grandad. I had those days where it's like just crying because you don't get to see them again. But I can't preach stuff. I don't mean to preach, it's not really preaching, but I can't really say stuff in funerals. It's like I'm getting a taste of my own medicine now, having my own bereavement that's so close. So since I've been a funeral celebrant, I've had a few experiences. I'll give you my most Darren Brown example of one. I had a few experiences where I realised that I had dead people talking to me. I had questioned this for years because I've had this thing years ago where I thought, I thought my dead dear friend was talking to me in his downstairs toilet, which was always quite off-putting and amusing, and you think, crikey, you really have to join me in the toilet. Anyway, I just rubbed past it off and just thought it was, I don't know, I never really thought too much about it. I just thought it was a bit daft. But anyway, when I became a celebrant and funerals, I do weddings, the hand fastings, I do baby namings, I do all kinds of ceremonies. Whatever is a life thing or something that needs to have a ceremony about, I do it. And I create it and I deliver it. But funerals is the bread and butter of my work. And I started having a few experiences, one really significant, that made me know that I really did have the dead people talking to me, and that I was working for the dead person as much as the living family that I'm serving. So after a few instances of different things happening, I won't tell you all the stories, we haven't got all day, but there was one where, because I knew then that I'd had it proven to me that I was talking to dead people, or they were talking to me, and I could converse with them to an extent. I did a funeral for a gentleman's wife, and there was a carer situation she was more like a daughter. And when I was sat down on a Friday afternoon after meeting the gentleman and the carer, I knew that she wanted, the dead lady wanted to me to say something to the carer slash kind of daughter relationship person. And so I said, okay, what do you want me to say? I'm sat here now, let's type it. And I typed it out, and she gave me a perfectly clear paragraph. But at the end, she kept saying number one, number one, number one. And I was just like, yeah, and number one. But the sentence never went on anymore. And I was just like, number one. And I deleted it. And I was like, well, is that it? And she just kept saying number one, number one. And I was like, I'm not writing down and standing up in front of everyone. I don't mind reading this paragraph out because that makes complete sense. I said, but this number one thing, I said, that doesn't make any sense. And I ended the typing there. And then that whole weekend, oh my God, she's driving me mad. Number one, number one. And I was like, listen, lady, you're going to have to stop this because you're driving me nuts now. And I said to her, okay, this is the deal. I promise that when I print this script out, I will write the number one down on the script. And at the funeral, I will question them about this. And that's exactly what happened. I printed the script out the day before and on the day, and I saw the carer lady after, at the end of the service. I called her over and I said, listen, I said, does it mean anything if I said number one to you? And she called over to the husband who was greeting people coming out of the chapel, and she said, oi, what's Frank, what did she used to call me? And he shouted back, numero uno, number one. It's just like, okay, I just need to show you something. And I showed her that I'd written it in thing. I said, and that paragraph that I read out to you came directly from her. So that's just one example. So what I would say is to hold a hope and have an understanding. And this does take trust, because you're not all like me. I know you don't talk to dead people. A lot of people are closed off from this, but when somebody close to them dies, they really want, when I do closing words, is trying to offer some celebrants call it words of comfort. I don't call it that. I'm trying to get across to them that there's more than meets the eye in this world. And it's not a new thing. Lots of people have been talking about this stuff for years, but it's still very much in our mindset that all that stuff is nonsense, and ghosts and ghouls is fantasy, and fairies are fantasy, and this and that. And actually, in fact, there's a lot more going on. And certainly, when they say, something I learnt more recently was that the translation of death in Hebrew means somewhere else. So those guys over there, definitely they've had this belief that this understanding that these people, they die to us physically here, but they're always around. And that's not the only culture. There's so many cultures, not so many, but there's a few cultures. They get out their dead people on their death days, I think it is, or a certain festival of the year. And was it in the Bhutan is one of the places? There's a few places, and they get them out. They've been kind of mummified, and they will have them at like a family meeting, and that ancestor will be physically there, and they will be included in decision making. And I would be guessing that when they say that, that actually means that, like me having that lady telling me what she wanted to say to this carer that she wanted to thank, I'm guessing that they are hearing the ancestors' input. It's not just wheeling them out to have them there for the sake of it. They really are a part of that decision making, I would be guessing, based on my own experience. So what I would say is I do think it probably is within all of us to have the capacity. I think in the rawness of grief, I think the majority of people wouldn't be able to tap into that capacity. I've had experience with one young lady who lost her partner really young, left with 5 kids, and she was having some crazy experiences, but she couldn't connect quite to him. But she was having that many spiritual experiences and things happening around the house. I think in time, when the rawness of grief subsided, she would probably have direct contact with him. So yeah, I suppose it's not an upside because you have physically lost that person, and it doesn't replace being able to hug them or hold their hand, or, you know, when we live in such a material world, when we believe in the things that we can see and then we can't see them because they've been buried or they've been cremated and they're not around us. I like to think it kind of is an upside if people can understand that they are actually there. And when the radio's messing around, going on and off, when a song comes on and it reminds you of that special person, when you hear a smell, a song plays, somebody says something, it's really in a significant moment, that is them. It's definitely them. So this is a different video. You'll find if you look through my videos, this collection is like, yeah, it's all over the shop. There's a lot of different stuff going on. My brain goes all over the place. My interests are all over the place, but it's also interconnected, and essentially it's living this human existence and me exploring the mystery of it all. So yeah, this is just a random video dropped in, but I think we are all at some point in our lives, or we have already experienced grief close to us, and hopefully to hear what I've said here gives you some things to think about, and yeah, maybe hopefully it can bring some comfort to you, some hope, some understanding. Okay, I'll give you another example. There was a beautiful girl in Plymouth. I did her mum's funeral, and this girl, crikey, she was only like, she could only be in her early 25 maybe at the oldest. And she smoked, and she worked in an office somewhere, and every day, because her mum had health issues for quite a long time, and so every day she would have her break in the morning at a certain time, and she would go out on this fire escape sort of back entrance thing, and she would have a cigarette, and she would ring her mum. And then when her mum died, she was really, that was one of the big things for her, because what on earth was she going to do? That, you know, she wasn't going to be able to go out on that break time and go and bring her mum. And I said, well, you know what? I said, when it feels like, and you go back to work and it feels right, I said, just go out there anyway and go and have a chat with your mum. Why not? You know, it's like, she'll be there, she'll be listening to you. And so anyway, we did the funeral and blah, blah, blah. She did go back to work, and then there's a beautiful butterfly just flying around up there. Sorry, distracted. I stay in contact, not all the time, because I've served that many hundreds of families. I can't keep constant contact with everyone. But anyway, me and her stayed in contact for a little while, just checking in with her. And she had the most amazing experience now out on this back fire exit-y backdoory thing. It was just literally like a tarmac, scrubby little thing. There was a bit of a hedge, there was railing, it was back of the building, it wasn't anything special. And her mum had a real thing about yellow roses. And when she went back to work, and she went back out on her fag break, and she came round the corner, and there was this yellow rose in bloom. Now, she had never noticed in all the time she worked there that there was ever yellow roses there. You'd think at some point, you know, in the spring, summer, when the roses are blooming, that she would have seen that there. So it's strange to think that a really established rose bush has been there all that time and it's never bloomed, and she's never noticed it. And like I say, it was sort of a scrubby back entrance to a place. But yeah, she come round that corner, and there was yellow roses, and she knew straight away her mum was with her. There are some weird and magical things that happen in the world, and quite often they come up when somebody close to you who's died is trying to just say, hey, you know, hello, I'm still here. And I don't know how they do it, but it does happen, and it's a very real thing. And yeah, it's magical. So you may have lost a loved one, and yeah, you're probably not going to see them again until you die yourself, and then you'll be reunited. And again, I've not experienced that, but I've certainly, the thing I have experienced around that is that a lot of nurses and carers and people that have been nurses and carers that I've organised funerals for their mums or dads or whatever, and I've got into conversation, and the number of stories that I've had, numerous, where the person, not necessarily their relative, but would say they've been nursing on a ward, and the person in their moment of death has like reached up their arms as if, like, you know, they're like reaching out sort of thing, and they've yelled out, you know, mum or mother, father, blah blah blah, and then they've died. And then I hear other people, I know a spiritual medium from a church in Paynton, beautiful guy, I did his mum's funeral, so special, and me and him have stayed in contact. And funnily enough, his dad was my granddad's next door neighbour, a few doors down. I went to one of his mediumship nights in the church down there, spiritual church, but also again just having conversations with people and watching a lot of different videos by different people on near-death experiences. It would certainly suggest to me that you are reunited with close family members. So there is a somewhere else. You call it heaven, you call it whatever you like. There is a somewhere else. And I do think that we are reunited, and with our pets apparently. So happy days, I'll see Mr. Spindles and Asta again, which is fantastic. So yeah, people can think that, oh, this is like religion, oh, it's a load of nonsense, and do you know what? My granddad, his biggest thing was you have to have a faith in something. When he said something, he meant God. But cool. The other thing he said about God is that God is like completely indefinable, so God could be anything or anyone. But you have to have a faith in that, because otherwise you are dangling, you're not tethered, you're unrooted, you're flailing about in a spiritual sense, but if you don't like the word spiritual, in the sense of who you are and living your life as a human being. If you really think that this material world is everything and that's it, I don't want to make a judgment on somebody, but I'm concerned for those people. I understand why, because it's come from such conditioning, long-term conditioning over a couple centuries. But I've just had so many experiences. I'm not even going to get into it, all of them in this video. But yeah, there is more going on. I've seen it. I've experienced it for myself. So that's very easy for me to believe. But hopefully you can understand or you can hear my sincerity, or I don't know what the word is, that you can take something from what I'm saying. People that are with me and they're in my physical presence, I don't know if that makes a difference, but when I speak to them about things, because I'm dealing with their funeral, either as a funeral director or a celebrant, and they go away they say to me, oh, you know, oh, I'm so glad you said that. I really, whatever the thing was that I said about an experience that I've directly had, it's made a difference to them. And it's not just brought them comfort, it has brought them hope. So yeah, it's not a load of old tosh. But, you know, think what you like, take what you like from it. I doubt you've got to this far in the video if you think this is a load of old crock, so... right, peace be with you, lots of love, and yeah, when you lose someone, it's not the end. It can seem really like the end, but it isn't. It's just a change, it's a transformation. in that grieving process, which is not just all the crying and it's so much more. That grieving process is so much more. There is a beauty to it. There's a sacredness to it, certainly. So as you work your way through it, and you're still, when you're coming out the other side of it, I hope that you can come to understand that your relationship with them is still there. It's changed. Peace be with you.